Hello, how are you? My name is Jani, and this time I want to make this video. It's a little information about some techniques and general tips um, about the faces in Mirabillas designs. More than the faces of the designs, it's the use of the backstitch and little details like that. I've been working in this design. It's a sleeping princess, and I started this project last Stitch Mania, and I thought that it could be a good idea to bring this design because I really didn't stitch much last year, and I thought that would be a good idea to stitch or finish the face. And I usually love to have a Mirabilia face looking at me when I'm stitching a project. So yeah, the name of this design is The Sleeping Princess, and is based in the fairy tale The Princess and the how do you say in English? Well, you know the story. So she's sleeping, and Nora used the theme really well because she decided to add a lot of details and ornaments to the mattresses. So yeah, it's a really beautiful and gorgeous design with all the colors and all the details. So as I was telling you, I started this last year, and as usual, Stitch Mania is full of new projects and excitement and a little craziness. But unfortunately, we don't get to finish a lot of projects. So this one, I just stitch on this a few days. So as I told you, I usually stitch the face first, and this is not the exception. So Nora Corbett usually, well, in her oldest design, usually create the faces. They are looking, to one side, so they are not so difficult to stitch. You have to backstitch the nose and the eyes, so it's really not a difficult task. So this is my my work from last year, and you can see that there is not much done, just the arms and part of the face, part of her little face, but this will give us a good example of how to finish the face, and with the back stitch. And it's really amazing how the work change just with the back stitch. I usually finish the back stitch after I finish all the stitching part, and in this design I need to finish the arms and the face and the hair and the pillow, but probably I will have to undone the back stitch, because I finish all the, or you supposedly have to finish all the crosses before you do the backstitch part. But yeah, it's not a very large part, so we'll see. These are the two colors in the face. Usually Nora use these colors for her ladies. You can make substitutions of the colors, a darker shade, or just substitute the two DMC for a darker or a lighter shade. So it's not really difficult, and there are even a table, list with some colors for substitutions. Let me see. You can see that there are still some parts that I haven't stitched. I need to finish the part of the eyelid and part of the face. Here I'm showing you some of the fractional crosses. This design is stitched in Lugana 28, so I work my fractional stitches just in a quarter of the square or the space where you're supposed to do a full cross. I just stitch a quarter of a cross, and you should do this to when you stitch the back stitch. The full cross, if you stitch a full cross and then you put the back stitch on it, it looks a little off. So the idea of using this quarter of stitch or half stitch are in order to make the back stitch more subtle, so you can follow the shade of the face. And it's of course not a realistic picture of a face. It's more like a representation, but that way you can achieve the design, the final design of the Mirabilia. Here I'm showing you some of the quarter stitches and how in this part you can really tell, or you can really see where are the limits of the face. But once you put the back stitch, it change all the design. You can, if you don't want to stitch the fractional stitches, you can do the full cross, or even let the space without any stitch, and doesn't really affect much the result. It looks a little different, but it's a matter of choice. I guess you can choose not to use fractional, but I highly recommend it because they look pretty once you put the back stitch. I'm talking about I need to use a blended threads, and between the two shades of DMC, the darker one and the lighter one, and you can blend. I usually took one floss of each color and start to stitch the full crosses with both flosses. But you can also, when the design asks for a blended thread, you can cross the stitches one leg with one color and then return to finish the crosses with the other color. Some people do that way. One leg of the cross is one color and the other one has the other color. But I usually just combine the two colors and stitch the crosses with the blending threads. So you can do either way. I see some of you doing with one leg of one color and that's it. But it's I guess you can choose any technique you want. And because I'm using the two flosses, I can really start with a loop method because I will finish with 4 threads. So I'm doing I decide to start in the front of my fabric. I usually, because these colors are very similar to the ones that I already stitched, I can hide the initial thread under some of the stitches, or I can start under the new ones that I'm going to start. So I just start with my needle vertically and hold the threads and start the first stitch holding that little tail, because this is really a small part that I'm going to use it. I have to cut the tail of the threads really similar to, in order to get those threads under the new crosses. And when I stitch with blended threads, I try to be careful with the way the flosses laid in the fabric, using railroading or trying to keep the crosses really nice and flat, so both flosses look in the same direction. So the effect of the blending colors are better. And that's it. In this eyelid, there are only 3 crosses to do. So I finish that crosses, and I finish my thread under 2 or 3 already done crosses, because they are really similar, the colors that I'm using. So I pass the thread under some of the crosses, and I cut the thread really close to the end, very carefully, because I don't want to cut the fabric or another already done cross. So that's it. And you can already kind of see some of the form of the face, the eyelid and the mouth and the nose. And I usually will finish all the crosses in the arms and in the face and in the hair, and in this case I will have to finish the pillow, but I recommend that you do that way when you want to make some backstitch in certain area. First finish all the crosses in that area in specific. With the blended flosses that I had, I will continue. I will use it. But if you start to keep with the blending flosses, you can keep it in a new bobbin or in a bag, in a little bag, so you can use it for the rest of the design, because in this case I have to use those blended flosses in the space of the face and in the arms and in the neck. So yeah, try not to throw out that blending flosses. So here I'm already finished using those blending flosses in the top of her forehead, and here I am showing you how I will put a quarter of a point of a cross of a stitch in the top part of her forehead. So again, this is to give the design a more smooth appearance with the backstitch. So yeah, I'm finished here the blending color and doing quarter of stitch, and after I finish this I start with the backstitch. I'm finishing my thread under some of the already made stitches, because the colors are really similar, so there are not really a problem there. You can see here in the face that I finish most of the stitches. I finished the eyelid, the nose. I put a little stitch, well, a full stitch in the mouth. Is in another color, a pink one, and this stitch I started with the loop method and finished behind in the back of my fabric. Here I am reading the instruction for the back stitching. I have to use one strand of the MC for the face, for the eyelid and for the eyebrow in 632. So you will need to follow the backstitch instruction, and in the chart they put the directions to if you have to use one strand or two strand, and sometimes you can find also in the instructions different lines that they draw for the backstitch, because some designs are a little different or a little complex, so had a backstitch in the same area, and they you can difference make some difference in the types of the line of the backstitch, but in this case you just it's just the same line. So I already have my needle with one thread of DMC 632, and because the color is really dark, I start my backstitch in the back of the fabric, and I start with how Caroline call it. I can't remember, but it's you pass the thread under some of the already made stitches, and then you return and pass again, and that's it. You anchor the thread that way, and you can pull the thread, and it's secure, and that way you don't have to make a knot or and you can start your backstitch. So here I'm starting in the top of her forehead, and follow the instructions of the chart. And I start in the in top of her head, in the top of her head, and you can see that you follow the already that on the already made stitches, and because you stitch some of them as fractional stitches, they are giving the impression of the form of the face. So that's the idea, to keep the silhouette of the face. So yeah, I will try to. I usually try to do long backstitching, not just square by square. I like it, use long stitches for my backstitch, but you can do stitch by stitch. And I'm doing the forehead, and then I because the eyebrow is really close, I start the eyebrow in the same way, following the chart, and trying to return to the main backstitch, which is the forehead. So I finished that eyebrow. I got a little knot right there, but nothing major. And yeah, keep doing the backstitch. Usually, again, the backstitch is stitched above the already made crosses, so you can arrange a little, but yeah, you really need to have the crosses in the bottom part of the backstitch. So I will continue in the nose, and again I try to do long back stitches, so it's it looks a little smoother, I guess. I don't know. perhaps it's just a form that I'm used to. In this part, I again jump to the eyelid and the eye, and I wasn't aware in this moment, but I make a mistake because the eyelashes are backstitched in a different DMC. So you will see when I do the eyelashes again. I finish the middle of the nose. And if you can see, I'm following the shade of the fractional stitches and following the instructions of the chart. Again, this is not completely stitched, so I will have to I don't know if I will have to undo the back stitch or really carefully stitch under the back stitch. This is where I realized that my eyelashes were in a different color, so I change I finish the neck, her chin and the neck, and then I do again the eyelashes. So yeah, here I'm doing her chin, and you get used to follow the instruction in the chart. You know, you count 2 or 3 crosses or 2 or 3 rows, and you know, to the top or to the bottom or to the left or to the right. And because you already have the crosses done, it's easy to follow the shape. So in this part I am counting because precisely I didn't have the complete crosses. I have to be counting in the fabric, the threads of the fabric, not the crosses done, because there are a few missing. I finished the part of her neck, and really just backstitching the empty fabric because I didn't have crosses done in that part. But you can see the difference after and before or after the backstitching part. I will insert a picture in a minute. Here again, once I finish all the crosses, I keep backstitching, you know, the arms and the neck and the part of the face. I am checking again the instructions, and I read, you know, eyelashes, so I have to use another DMC 938, and you need to backstitch with 3 strands of floss. I usually when I have to backstitch this kind of details, and there are only you know, eyebrows or perhaps the eyelashes or something like that, I just have my needle with one thread, and I like to pass the needle 3 times or 2 times, or the times of strands that I will need. So here I am doing 1 and 2 and 3 but not at the same time, one by one, and you get the effect in this case of the eyelashes, which are gorgeous. So we have a little sleeping princess with a gorgeous eyelashes. So I will finish the floss in the back of the stitch of the fabric, and that's it. You can see my little sleeping princess, and here's a picture of the before and where I start, and the change when you add the back stitch. I really love to stitch the back stitch because you can see the face, so yeah, I can keep stitching in the endless dresses, or in this case in the endless mattresses. But you have a face to look at, so that's pretty. And I will show you some of other Mirabilia faces. Here again, I need to finish all the stitchy parts, but here is mermaids of deep blue, and again the detail in the eyelashes and in the eyebrows and the nose. Here the eye had stitched across in another color, and I also backstitched the arms, but I need to finish the stitches. But I really need to have the faces looking at me, or to look at. And here is another example. This is Venetian opulence, and again this is a bigger design, so the detail in the backstitch it's larger, so you can see the nose, the detail in the lips, the eyes and the eyelids and the eyebrow, and eyelashes. And you use different colors for the eyes and for the rest of the face. So yeah, it's really pretty. Again, I'm stitching part of her body and everything, but I have to finish the faces. I really love Mirabilia, so I don't know, I guess it's a kind of ritual that I have to finish the face. Some people like to leave the faces for the final part of the stitching, but not me. So yeah, this is a little example of the way I work my Mirabilias, my faces, and it's not perhaps the best work, but you can see some of the things that I do. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed it and can take some tips, and I'll see you and in my next video. Bye bye.